She had been stealing from my business for 2 years. So I built her the perfect confession. I run a mid-sized event logistics company. I built it across 8 years from a single van and a spreadsheet into something with 12 full-time staff, a fleet of vehicles, and contracts with venues that required the kind of reliability that takes years to establish, and about 48 hours of bad behavior to lose. I'm not telling you this to establish importance. I'm telling you because the scale of what my operations manager Delia was doing becomes legible only against the size of what I had built. I discovered the discrepancy on a Tuesday in late autumn while reviewing a quarterly reconciliation that my accountant had flagged with a particular careful neutrality of someone who suspects something significant and does not want to be wrong. The flag was small. A supplier invoice paid twice, the second payment routed through a slightly different account number that resolved, after 2 hours of careful forensic attention, to an account I did not recognize and had not authorized. I pulled 2 years of records that same evening. I did not call Delia. I did not call anyone. I sat at my kitchen table with a spreadsheet and a cold cup of coffee and spent 4 hours constructing a picture that I very much did not want to be accurate. And that was, by the end of those 4 hours, irrefutably accurate. Delia had been with me for 6 years. She was competent, trusted, present at every significant moment in the company's growth. She had also been redirecting supplier payments, inflating contractor invoices, and maintaining a parallel paper trail of sufficient tidiness that a less thorough quarterly review would have missed it entirely. The total across 2 years was considerable. Considerable enough that it had affected decisions I had made about expansion that I now understood I had made on falsified information. I consulted a lawyer before I did anything else. Then I consulted a forensic accountant. Then I sat with both of them and described what I wanted to do, and the lawyer looked at me for a long moment and said it was unusual, but that unusual was not the same as inadvisable. I went back to work the following Monday behaving in every observable respect as though I had noticed nothing. For 3 weeks I operated normally. I approved Delia's requests, attended her briefings, copied her on correspondence. I think, the most composed I have ever been in my professional life, which is saying something because composure is a quality my industry selects for hard. In the 4th week, I called Delia into my office and told her with controlled urgency that we had a serious problem. I told her that a government contracts compliance audit had been triggered following a flag on a procurement submission, and that auditors would be reviewing 2 years of financial records within the fortnight. I told her the review would be comprehensive and that anything irregular in the company's accounts would surface under that level of scrutiny. I told her I was telling her first because she managed the accounts and I needed to know, before the auditors arrived, whether there was anything she was aware of that I was not. I watched her face move through several expressions in rapid succession. She said there was nothing she was aware of. I nodded slowly. I said I was relieved to hear it. I said the auditors were thorough and that anything they found that had not been disclosed voluntarily would be treated significantly more seriously than anything surfaced through self-reporting, and that the compliance officer I had spoken to had been very clear about that distinction. I said I was giving everyone with account access the opportunity to review their records over the coming days and flag anything that needed clarification before the audit began. Then I thanked her and returned to my work. She came back to my office 4 days later. She closed the door. She sat down. She began speaking in the careful, incremental way of someone who is attempting to confess the minimum necessary amount while leaving themselves room to retreat. I let her talk. I had a recording application running on my phone, the legality of which I had confirmed with my lawyer before the conversation I had known was coming. She did not confess everything. She confessed enough. Enough that when I placed what she said alongside what my forensic accountant had already documented, the picture was complete and the evidence was redundant, and the outcome was, at that point, simply a matter of process. There was no government audit. There never had been. The compliance officer I had referenced did not exist. The fortnight deadline I had cited was a number I had chosen because it was short enough to create urgency and long enough to feel procedurally plausible. Delia looked at me when I told her this. The expression on her face moved through several stages before arriving at something that had no clean name. I told her my lawyer would be in contact. She was escorted from the building that afternoon. The civil recovery process is ongoing and proceeding, according to my lawyer, with reasonable momentum. 2 of the falsified contractor accounts have been traced to a third party. I will not name here pending resolution. I hired a new operations manager 4 months ago. She comes from a background in financial compliance, which I now consider a non-negotiable qualification for the role. Every invoice gets a second pair of eyes. Every quarter gets reviewed by someone who is looking for exactly the thing I spent 2 years not looking for closely enough. That part is on me. I have made my peace with it. The rest is on Delia, and she is making her peace with it in the presence of people with law degrees.